There we go. All right. And we are live. We have 4 commissioners in attendance. We are good to go. Jennifer, at your leisure.
All right. The December 2021 meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District is called to order at 6:01 p.m.
Okay.
All right, so let's start with public comment. Is there anyone for public comment this evening, Doug?
So we did have, I circulated to the board every single one of the comments I've received in between last meeting and this meeting. Those are all, all commissioners have seen those, and we have already printed up everything short of the one I just sent out to everybody a few minutes ago. That one I will print out tomorrow. We will attach those all to the minutes. So they will be on file in our office, but the commissioners have already seen any of the the typed comments that we received via email over the past month since the last board meeting. So those have all been included. Those included, where's my file? There it is. Comments from Mr. Bush. Where is it there? It included comments from, looking for the file here, there it is. It included comments from Mr. Bush, comments from Mr. Freed, from the Gates, from Mr. Hall, from Mr. Curtis, and from Ms. Lati. And then we just had one that I will add in that I sent out to the board a few minutes ago, as I got it about 20 minutes ago, and that was from Mr. Freed. That was the last one. So those have all been already codified and saved, and we have those in our system. They're already printed out, except the last one, which I will do tomorrow morning, and we will attach those to the minutes, and they will stay with the minutes once the minutes are approved. I see Mr. Bush is online, so he may want to make additional comment in addition to his written comment.
Yes, I would like to.
Okay. Well, we have 5-minute time limit. I'll start that when you go. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And Doug, would you please send me those other public comments? I have not seen anything since the ones you sent from the November 17 meeting, so I'd love to review the ones that you've received since. Thank you, sir. Okay. I first want to commend the commissioners of the district and its staff on the bountiful and high-quality recreational opportunities you have developed and provide to the South Whidbey community. These opportunities serve a very wide range of interests, abilities, and ages, and would be the envy of any rural community in our country. Bravo. I also want to thank 4 of the 5 commissioners with whom I was able to speak since your last board meeting. With each of you, I was welcomed and met with an open-minded, solutions-oriented, and outcomes-focused dialogue. I could not be more appreciative of the quality of the conversations we shared, nor could I be any more hopeful about the results we explored. Thank each one of you. All of which makes me very reluctant to voice the concerns I address in my letter. I do not wish to offend anyone, nor do I want to personalize my observations regarding those concerns. I do want to emphasize that my interactions with district staff have been professional and their responses have been prompt. I bear them no ill will, but we have, since the 2008 trail plan, a clear set of established metrics, processes, and policies for success that still are not honored in practice in the Trustlands trails, and which the proposal for the new trail would violate. I ask you to please have read my comments before taking further action on the trail proposal. Thank you. I would be happy to take any questions or hear any thoughts you'd like to share.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bush. I don't see anyone else for public comment, so that's all I had for public comment, unless there's someone else on the call that I don't see that would be interested in doing public comment.
Okay, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. Has every commissioner had an opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any questions or changes to be submitted? Right, if not, I would entertain a motion
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the November 2017 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes of the November 17, 2021 board meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. All right, the ayes have it. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. Our next order of business is the treasurer's report. Matt, would you please walk us through the summary report?
Okay. You see in the go to meeting window, you should see the summary slide. So again, as a reminder, this is the cumulative picture year to date with the forecast as the magenta line and actual net of revenue and expenses as the blue line. And remember, up is in all cases favorable. So we are running favorable to the forecast. And you can see revenue on the top, expenses on the bottom. You can see we're running slightly behind in revenue. You can see cumulative year to date after running ahead or just on for most of the year. And you can see we've been steadily making ground favorable on the expense side, and that favorability is what's got us net positive. Next slide shows the detail. Revenue first. And you can see where we were on a cumulative basis favorable to the revenue plan for the bulk of the year, and then we bounced around a little bit. Now we are currently around 18,000 unfavorable. You can see that cumulative effect has been from programs primarily, so you can see that trend. The next slide shows that expenses more than make up for that, so the staff's done a great job in this uncertain environment, controlling expenses as a precautionary measure. And you can see as a cumulative number that totals around 145,000 as of end of November. And you can see the spread there. The bulk of that is program. So as Carrie's seen the program revenue struggle, and now Sky, we've made the necessary adjustments on expenses to cover for that. So that's been a great job by the staff. And then the last slide will show you the fund balances. You can see we are trending flat over the last 2 months on plan. And the next step will be an adjustment to the reserve fund for the 2022 budget. So right now we're in good shape for that. And from an ending cash standpoint, we should be able to adjust that and achieve the 2022 level as of January. Any questions on those overview slides? If not, we'll move to the vouchers. Okay, Doug, if you can pull up the vouchers, we can look at the changes.
Yeah, so most of the changes, a lot of the changes were payroll related since we did have a payroll today. So you can see monthly payroll came in, and I think we put in an estimate on Friday, but we actually have the numbers today. We had engineered wood fiber. That was the quote that we did to put the fall protection into the playgrounds. Some ecology blocks from Miles Sand and Gravel. Paid the electric bill, which is always a good idea. Got some building repair supplies at CBO's. Paid our fuel bills at the school district where we fuel up our vehicles, our mowers and such. Some software, account edge software, water service and background checks for program instructors, Department of Retirement contributions. So again, payroll expenses here, as well as payroll expenses here. Those were the changes since Friday.
And the new total is 101,713.29 from M&O.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any specific questions on the voucher listing or any of the changes?
I'd just like to thank Carrie for including the updated voucher list with her email this evening. That was helpful so that I could print it out. Thank you for that. All right, if there are no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there are no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the voucher listing for the M&O fund for a total amount of $101,713.29.
Voucher list in the amount of $101,713.29. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer.
Let's see here. Why are we not moving? There we go. So we are looking at upcoming on January 1st. There is the polar bear dive. And then January 3rd through 7th, we do have the youth basketball skills assessment. We are moving forward on all of that. There's all the other dates that are coming up. We currently have 79 players signed up. We're still looking for more sponsors and referees for basketball. And there's your current registered numbers. So we are still looking for more. We're looking to add a weekly 7th and 8th grade boys open gym with skill building in the winter, depending upon open space in the gym, and a little dribblers and or 1st or 2nd grade league in the spring. Pickleball, we're also adding Mondays for drop-in beginning January 3rd. Will now be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:30 to 12:30. Over the last 30 days, our Facebook page and profile visits have increased 469% over the same period last year. Our Facebook reach has increased 161% over the same period last year. And our page follows are predominantly female. You can see some of those stats here. Our best performing posts were the incident of field damage that we had, and then the post we had on the Throwback Thursday of what the park used to look like and what it looks like now. So very cool. This guy's really been doing a good job with that. Facilities and grounds, it's been a challenging fall with non-stop basic saturation of the ground. We've been in between storms, we've been adding gravel to the trails as we can. The playground fiber product was blown in last week. We completely filled the sports complex playground and had a small amount to freshen up parts of Castle Park. All septic inspections were completed this week with only minor repairs and pumping to be performed. And the sports fields have been closed as needed, as it has been so wet we haven't been able to apply our last fertilizer application for the year. We've been battling power outages and weather conditions this month, trying to go through the audit in a timely fashion and get that process done. Matt and Jennifer attended the initial conference and can comment on the process at that meeting. We've done a lot of work getting the levy documents to the county and attempts at securing the people for the for and against statements in the voter guide. We found 2 volunteers for the for statement. We were not able to find anybody that volunteered to write the against statement. That for statement has been submitted and is into the county. As far as I know, the county has not said that they have found anybody to write the against, so we'll see. Continued efforts to wrap up the Max Welton Trails Park Land and Water Conservation Fund grants and WWRP grants. I'm still working on getting the final easement map. That's not true. I got it on Tuesday, and I've submitted it to the RCO for a quick once-over before I do a final signing of it and sending it in to make sure it has everything that it needs. That should be completed this year so we can enter the new year and then try and reimburse the remaining funds back to the bond issue that we took out to get that purchase expedited. Other items I've been working on are in the regular agenda. And then we have our meeting today. I did not put our meeting for January on the schedule of upcoming events, as at this point, that schedule has not been approved yet. So we will be doing that this meeting. Any questions in the staff report? Any comments from Matt or Jennifer on the entrance conference for the audit?
I thought the entrance conference was, I greatly appreciated it. They certainly put us at ease as far as what it is they're going to be covering, and that they are just very much looking to be helpful, not looking to find problems. So I found it useful. Matt had some great questions for them.
Yeah, just as a quick summary, so that was on the 7th, and we had said last month that we would represent the board at that conference, they invited the whole board, but it would have had to been a formal meeting if we wanted to do it. So that Jennifer and I represented the board, and they basically gave us an audit overview, as Jen just said. The actual auditor wasn't there because he was on leave, but he had started the audit. The start date appears to be the 29th of November. And Carrie's going to give us a quick update at the end to tell us where we stand, but it's ongoing, and it's not 100% clear when they're going to be done. It's all been remote. They thought there was a chance they would come visit us, but they ended up deciding not to. We asked them formally to come and visit us because, as Carrie said, as Jen said, it's designed to help us. We're only going to get better from it. So better to have them here and build a relationship, but they ended up not being able to do that. They did a couple of risk assessment interviews. They do a risk assessment interview of Carrie first on business practices in the park, and then they do a risk assessment interview of me as the treasurer, basically focused on fraud awareness. So both of those were done, and they're working on a couple of focus areas this audit: accounts payable, which includes general disbursements, credit cards, fuel cards, travel, reimbursements, that sort of thing, and an audit of the park financial condition, which is a biennial requirement, which, since we have audits every 2 years, it means every time we get audited, the financial condition gets audited. So risk assessment's done. They're looking at accounts payable right now. They're evaluating the financial condition right now. And there are 3 levels of reporting that we could get coming out of it. The most serious is a finding, which means they found something significant, meaning they need to include that in the audit report, and they give us a chance to write a response to be included in the audit report. The next in order of severity is called a management letter. And what that is something that the auditors find that they believe to be of interest to the board and that they need to communicate to the board. So they would write a letter saying, we found this, and write it to the board. But they would not include the detail of what they found in the audit report. They just referenced that there was a management letter issued in the body of the audit as a general point. So that's, again, less severe than a finding. And we actually had a management letter in our 2014 audit issue with our cash receipts that the auditors identified, and that caused us to improve our cash receipt system. So we learned and improved from that. And that was the only management letter that I know in the history of our audits that we received. And then the third level, least severe, is something called an exit item. And those, they call those housekeeping items. Every audit, there are going to likely be some of those. We had a exit item last time on our accounting for small valuable items, small electronic items, things like that, where they had some suggestions on how we could do it better. But that's least severe. So again, findings, management letters, and exit items. So we'll hear about the results in those terms. There are a couple other things. They announced that they have a new tracking tool, an online tracking tool. So if they issue us a finding or we get a management letter, we can see the status of that real time in between audits. So they'll issue it. We have a response. We work on improvements or upgrades to our system. They review those. And so there's a back and forth that goes on as we go to resolve whatever issue is discovered. There's an online tracking tool that we can look at, that the public can look at, to evaluate how we're doing responding to whatever was discovered in the audit. So they announced that, and they described how that works. They also said that they would protect any confidential information they discovered during the audit. They made that point clear to us and told us that there's a dispute process if we find a reason to dispute something that comes up during the audit. And then just a couple points they made as positive feedback for us leading into the audit. One, they said that they have a tool for loss reporting. The state auditor's office has a tool for loss reporting that they maintain. and they ask everybody, government entities, to use. And we are one of their notable auditees who use that system regularly and accurately. So they gave us excellent feedback on that, that we actually use their tool. The other thing that they gave us feedback on was there is one of the guy who gave the briefing said that there is a system for citizen reporting, essentially, where any citizen can make a report asking that the state auditor's office look into a particular topic associated with, business management, financial management of an entity like us. And they said they get lots and lots of reports from Whidbey Island, but they had 0 reports that had been written on the Park District. So they said this is the administrator of that system who said it was testament to our transparency and our engagement with the public and open dialogue with the public. So it reflects well on the staff, reflects well on the board, on past boards. So I just wanted to make sure that feedback was received from the auditors. The last piece, we were asking questions about federal fund dispersals because the potential exists. We've already asked the county, made an application to the county for federal stimulus funds. So if those came through, we are likely going to apply for an LWCF grant in the 2022 cycle. Those are federal funds. And they gave us specific requirements. If we get federal funds and we expend them on something, we have to fill out a schedule of expenditures. And if we cross $750,000 in any year, we have to be audited by the SAO, by the state auditor's office, specific to the disbursement of those federal funds. So we wanted to make sure we knew what we were getting into and what the implications were of receiving any of that federal money. We're going to need to do the documentation on these expenditure schedules, and we may need to be audited if we're successful in getting more than $750,000 and expending that in one fiscal year. So that was the last piece we discussed. If there are any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, we can move on.
Okay, we shall move on then. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Doug, will you lead us in the comprehensive plan programs, please?
Sure. So this month, we're still in a holding pattern on the small water system management plan. We're going to be going out for bids on the maintenance service for the water system. That's the water testing and all the other stuff that we talked about in our management plan. First thing in 2022 to get that company on board and working with us on the system. Matt Marney and the foundation are working with the consultant to finalize the feasibility report. I believe we have that now, Matt, and you can kind of confirm that for me in a second.
Yep. Yeah, it was received yesterday.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I haven't had a chance to review it yet as I was getting prepped for this, but I thought I had seen that final thing come through. Max Welton Trails Park grant items. The signage information has been posted to the RCO system for review. Up until yesterday, I was still waiting on the final map from TMI, but I have that now. I have now updated that map and uploaded it, emailed it to the RCO for a quick review before I submit it as a final. And once I have that review approval, I will submit that, and we should be able to close out the grants on that property and be done with them. All the stimulus applications were submitted. Communication from the county indicated that because of the limited nature of the funds they received, they would only be taking one application from each entity. Matt informed them, my understanding was Matt informed them that we had ordered them in priority, so to take the first application as our initial round application. There may be additional rounds if funds still remain available. So that's kind of our update. Matt, do you want to touch anything on the aquatic facility or the stimulus application stuff?
I'll just say that, so the stimulus one, if you remember, we wrote the stimulus application as a single application with 7 projects in it. And we brought that to our Commissioner Bacon on the Island County Commission, and she responded favorably to it, and then took that back to the board and to the county budget staff. They turned around and said, okay, we're going to release a portion of the funds. There are 16.4 million in federal stimulus money. I think they released something like 3 million of it. And we're going to make a limited application, and you can now apply with specific individual projects. So we broke up the 7 projects in one application into 7 different applications and submitted all 7. And then they came back and said, well, you can only an entity can only submit 1 for this particular round of funding, as Doug said. So they went in the same order they were in the application, and based on the window for this round of funding was programs that were specifically focused on senior development and youth development. And the one that we that we had as number 1 in the original group application was pickleball. So that's the application that they're considering as the first in the first round is the pickleball courts and fencing that we had in the total application. And then the rest of them are lined up behind that as rounds. Then, as we get to additional rounds of funding, hopefully, because there's more money. They already have our applications. They're formatted correctly. They have all the information they need. So we don't need to necessarily do anything else other than advocate for them. Back to the Aquatic Center, one thing that happened last month, we had made the pool committee had made a funding request to a local stakeholder organization called Pacific Northwest Swimming. They're the regional branch of USA Swimming, the guys who advocate for youth swimming programs, feeding into Olympic training programs and the Olympic team. And they have something like 12,000 club swim members around the Northwest, including on Whidbey, the club that's based out of Island Athletic Club. And made a request to them for funding, and they just wrote a check for $20,000 to, no strings attached, to allow the committee to move forward with the capital campaign. So if you remember, the foundation funded the initial phase of the capital campaign for about $8,000 or $9,000 to get build a list of 84, I think it is, Doug, 84 potential donors. And then the next round is to go and interview those individual donors and figure out what they are capable of and willing to contribute to the project in capital. And those interviews, the consultant that's doing those, the fundraising consultant that's doing those interviews, that's a lengthy process. And their bid for that is, I think, $46,000. And so this $20,000 is essentially to pay half of that or close to half of that to get that capital campaign started. So we can figure out, is there bandwidth in the local potential donor community to contribute up to the target for the study is $5 million to contribute to the total cost of the aquatic facility. So that was a notable success on the committee's part to get that $20,000 grant. And there'll be more work in the next couple weeks to hopefully kick forward with that capital campaign. That's it.
Just a question about the stimulus funds. Do we know when they're looking to make decisions on this first round?
That's a great question. I would love to know. There was such a time pressure on getting them in. I got the impression that they were going to decide very quickly, but then we've heard nothing, unless, Doug, you've heard something.
No, but I'll follow up on it. I have not heard anything, and it was get it in, and then we haven't heard anything since. So, I will follow up on that as to when a decision will be made. Anything else?
All right, let's move on to the Trails Plan decision then, please.
So, staff met with our Trails Committee. That's Jennifer and Matt, and Tom and I sat and talked with them for a little while and talked about, after reviewing all the comments and reviewing all the input from the community, what they wanted to do. And Matt sent this to me a little bit ago, so I'm going to share this and let them kind of talk about what their recommendation to the board is as to what to do next.
Sure. You want to talk to this, Jen, or you want me to? Either way.
Either way, I'll chime in. You go ahead and start.
Okay, so, yeah, so you see, we're obviously considering two things, the Max Walton Trails Park property that Doug just talked about with the grant, and Trustland Trails, that's obviously been subject of lots of work and discussion. So what how we've oriented this is priority one for the next trail building is the Max Walton Trails property is what we're proposing. We walked Doug's got a map. Can you pull that map up, Doug? Do you have that handy? That shows the proposed access through the easement.
Let me see, hold on.
Sorry.
I may not. I cleaned out my computer so it would go faster.
You emailed it to Jen and I the other day, so it's in your outbound email. It was on let me see.
I'm looking for it too.
Yep. It was
Number 9, 1040 or 10, yeah, 1043.
AM.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. So again, this is the proposal for the immediate priority is to get this trail built that you see in orange there. And if you drive by and look, this is what Jen and I walked after it was flagged as part of the easement delineation. So if you walk across the crosswalk from the park entrance on Max Welton, you'll see a couple of stakes that mark the easement 60 feet, as Doug indicated earlier, wide, and goes straight in across the school property, and then along the edge of the property we acquired, makes a right turn, and then connects in with that trail that you see called the Old Log Road, which is the widest. It's a skid road that was there on our property and transits through the school property, the 40 acres that's to the north. So the proposal is that that's the thing that we do next. And this is what we do, with the equipment in order to be able to take, the way we drive the park trails in the morning to be able to get equipment back there to clear a trail, to do trail maintenance. And then from there, Jen and I are proposing that we partner with the school and with the volunteer trail group to build out the remaining trails in that property to match the nature of the trails that are in the adjacent school property. So it ends up all one system. And that's what we did a couple months ago when we were talking about the kiosks. So if you go down at the end of the primary school parking lot, you'll see the kiosk that has the LWCF RCO plaques on it. It's a trail information sign at the entrance on the side of our property. And then it matches the kiosk that's down on the other side of the intermediate school by the intermediate school ball field. So whether you're coming in from that side or our side or the school side, it all looks the same. So again, the proposal is the second phase, once the red entry access is established, that then we, with that volunteer group and with the school, we build out the trails again to match the signage matches and those trails are all what we call class 2 in our trail. Our trail management document. So they're forest trails, single track type trails. So that's the proposal for that, Max Welton. And then Trustland, we've got.
Hang on 1 second there, Matt. So on the going back to the Max Welton one, part of our outreach to the schools and the folks who, and Doug, Matt, I completely forgot the gentleman's name that you reminded me of. That was
Craig Stelling.
Thank you, Craig Stelling. And that this was an AmeriCorps project. Yep. So It would be great if we could get our hands on any sort of documentation that they would have had. So we'll have to try and figure out who to reach out to.
Yeah. Yep. So yes, good point. Any questions or feedback on that, on the Max Walton Trails portion of this?
I'm sure there are regular users who would love to help and contribute, but they probably don't know anything about this. So it could be as easy as just asking if we can post a sign over, most people go in by the elementary, by the intermediate school side, by the field. And there's actually a new structure there that doesn't have anything on it yet. That would be a great place for a sign.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. Yeah, and we had another potential volunteer approach me, who's part of a group of hikers on the island. Some number, 30 to 50 people, and expressing interest in supporting this, this trail building trail volunteer group. So I'll pass that contact information on to you, Doug, as well.
Sounds good.
Okay, so like I said, any other feedback, thoughts, questions on that Max Walton side? Is everybody familiar with that map?
Just one more question. So would that access road when would that be done? Is it like waiting? Because I know we usually do trail work in the fall. Would that be waiting for next fall or happen sooner, or what's the timeline on that?
It's going to depend on, now that if the board approves these two priorities, I would immediately start a site plan review, but it's going to depend on when our guys have time to do it. Once we get the site plan, process done, that is required to make sure that we don't need any specific permits. I don't think we do, but we'll find out, and we'll make sure that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's. But before we do any of the permitting, I can't really do permitting until I know what we're doing. So I will be starting that process in the next few days and trying to get that into the county and done as soon as I possibly can. And then we can find out if potentially that could be done if the staff has time and the equipment can actually physically go in there at this point of the year. I don't know how soft the ground is. It's a lot of factors are going to influence how quickly this gets done, and if it gets done this year or next year. It's really just going to be a question of timing and opportunity to be able to get the equipment in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one big step in that, Krista, is I'm sure, and Doug, you can confirm this, is that easement survey. Knowing where we would go, I think is a big key, because that had to have been done just in the last couple weeks, right, Doug?
It was just finished. I literally just got the map, I believe yesterday. It might have been Monday. So I finally got the map from them. It has been marked out. We knew where it was, but I had to have an actual map to be able to talk to the county about things and have it delineated. So yeah, we're right there. That's been done. I can now really start moving forward once the board gives me direction. Yes, this is what we want to do. I can now really move forward on it and get that site plan review filled out and in to the county for their review. And then however long that takes, and if we have to go through a permitting process or any grading, I don't think we're going to have any clearing or grading, but you never know. So we'll see what the county says once they see the plan.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll mention, if you can pull up that map again, Doug. And this is something Jen and I didn't really talk about, and I didn't think about it until the map showed up. But if you zoom in, Doug, on the where we have our new kiosk, it's where it says Forgotten Trail, but it's
right in here.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look there, and if you're familiar with this trail, that kiosk gives you access to the trail that runs along the fence and then turns, as you can see in that map, and turns in and then enters our property, actually, kind of crosses into it just barely. So one of the things that Jen and I discovered as we went in through this easement is, the trail system gets bigger by the amount of distance that we cross the school property with the easement, which is not inconsequential. And it's very likely there are already trails in that in that area before you get to our property. And so I think it's likely that there will be an opportunity to add a few trails in that area in partnership with the school. Obviously it's their property, but it's a natural place. And like I said, there are already trails there. So anyway, so it's, the system is likely going to have trails in our property, in the ones that exist to the north, and also some additional trails in that property adjacent to the easement. So just a thought, looking at that map. Okay, any other questions on the? Okay, second, we established that effort to get that trail into Max Walton Trails Park as the first priority. And then we work on building that partnership to build out those trails. We use that same group. Essentially what we're proposing is we use that same group to do the final trail that's been proposed and flagged. That is what's known as the challenge loop in the 2008 Trustland Trails Plan. It's the north, along the north boundary, and several of the commissioners have already walked that, so you're familiar with that. So in that plan, it lists that trail as a Class 2 trail, so a smaller trail. The rest of the trails in Trustland in that 2008 plan were wider, either Class 3, Class 4, Class 5 even, which is a paved trail. But it's specifically called that Challenge Loop Trail as a Class 2. So what Jen and I are proposing here is that for that trail, we pursue it as a Class 2 trail, similar to the ones we're talking about for Max Walton Trails, and that we do it with that trail volunteer group. Obviously, it's not suited to the staff as well, with not being able to use the equipment, and that we also do what Doug has done before in both these cases, leverage some outside stakeholder organizations. Washington Trails Association has been very good about supporting us with ideas, construction techniques, feedback on what we're doing, that kind of thing. So get them involved as part of this group. And also Jen and Krista and Eric, obviously we've got a lot of community feedback on the particular routing of that trail. Just take into consideration all that feedback and look at areas where we may need to reroute the flagging on that trail based on proximity to boundaries. It was flagged in accordance with our policy, which is greater than 50 feet from any property line. So it was already flagged that way, but there may be, based on the terrain and sight lines, we may want to move that routing in, to account for that. So just include that in the plan, that we take that step to look at the routing as we go through with that, as the that final step in the Trustland property. So questions on the Trustland side of this? Jen, comments, thoughts on that rerouting question and all that?
Just in that it's going to be a slow and thoughtful process, and it is going to take a significant amount of time. No particular targeted start time on that, because it's going to take us a while to get this group organized and focus more on the Max Walton to start with. So not off the table, but certainly not imminent.
Any other thoughts, feedback before I'll make a motion on this plan?
So just as a point of clarification, you're thinking this group would do the work on the Max Walton trails before the Challenge Trail at Trustland?
Yeah, and to me, I think it's we established that priority. So we have bandwidth, we have resources, we apply them to Max Walton first. I think in the way these volunteer groups have worked in the past, there may be some people who, are just, based on where they live and their pattern of life, they may be more available to support things at Trustland Trails. So maybe we use those people to make some progress on on the marking, on kind of doing the layout and doing the planning for the trail work. So yeah, my guess is it'll probably be part of the dynamic of that group if we were able to pull together, 15 or 20 people.
Yeah,
So,
my
who knows?
my thought is really the first trail that we're talking about, the Max Welton Trail, the one that's our access trail. So that's going to be like the ones we have at currently at Trustland. It's going to be the wider trail that we're going to do with our equipment. So that will be done by staff because that gives us the vehicle access to get into that area. And then once that is completed, any additional trails, we'll have more of that WTA we'll have to have that input in the partnership with the schools and all that kind of stuff will be developed to produce the additional single track trails, the class 2s going forward. From what this plan says, the priority number 1 is Max Welton Trails and getting that in, and that would be done by staff the way we've done the previous trails, following, trying to weave our way through the trail, the trees, not take out trees, but using our equipment to make that trail so that we can get our little carts and stuff back there if trees go down, and get at least close to it so that we're not having to carry all the way in every single time to every single trail. And then the last trail at Trustland is what we're talking about as a class 2 single track as well. And that would be bringing in WTA right away to kind of review that with us and take a look at where we're planning it. As Matt said, it does, and not only does it meet the criteria for what the board has requested at Trustland of 50 feet from the property line, it exceeds it, and in fact doubles it. So it is about 100 feet from the property line. But just making sure that we're looking at that and taking the time to have a second pair of independent eyes take a look at it that has experience, that can critique what we're doing and give us feedback. I got to say, everything that we've done at Trustland, WTA's come out and gone and said that that they wouldn't have really done it much differently for the bigger trails that we've made. If they were doing a single track, obviously they would do a single track differently than we were doing those trails. So. We have gotten good positive feedback from them in past, and we'll see what they say about this one before we do it.
I do have one question, and this dovetails with the most recent public comment that we received just prior to this meeting about signage at Trustland Trails. I know that we were sort of holding up signage, or the last time. I think the last meeting this came up, and that it's sort of waiting on full trail development at Trustland. But since we do not have a possible start date for the single track challenge trail, how does this affect our putting in signage at Trustland Trails?
Well, I want to be clear. We do have signage at Trustland Trails. There are signs out there. They are not permanent signage, and that's what I've been holding off doing. So there is signage out there. I know that the request was for more wayfinding signs on the actual trails between the connections. And to me, I don't, when I'm out in nature, I don't want nature spoiled by a bunch of signs here, there, and everywhere throughout all the way around, right? So it's a balancing act. It's how much do we want to put out there? So when we're talking about this time of year, it gets dark early, and if you're trying to go for a walk after work, you need to bring flashlights with you so you can find your way back. I mean, I'm sorry, in the summertime, the signage we have out there was more than sufficient. I never got a concern or complaint about anything signage wise in the summer. It is the darkness that is the factor, I think, more than the signage not being enough. Now, can we do more? I'm happy to do more. However, we need to then get out there and put in additional posts. And put those around and find strategic locations for them. I think we've got the other thing that we could do is, put arrows back to parking lot or something like that, and just do that as a stopgap. But again, all of that requires posts and putting them in because we don't want to be nailing things to trees. But
there are already posts at every intersection, right?
There are posts at every intersection, and there should be signage at every intersection. That's already out there. Now, if you are out there and you see that one of those is down, please let me know, and I will redo it and get it out there as soon as I can.
And Chris, all I would say is in reading that input today, I was going to go out and take a walk around the trails this weekend, just with that in mind. The philosophy has been that we, just some basic premises have been to maintain the same look and feel around a property so that the signs are familiar if you're on one side or the other, to minimize the signage, to the minimum necessary to navigate your way around the property so you don't have sign litter, and then the idea of having some orientation signs. A lot of times you see in a bigger trail property, you'll see a full system map on a post somewhere at the entrance. And I mean, at all entrances, in this case, we've got single entrance, but maybe in this case, because of that, you end up with one more of those signs at a distant point, something like that. So you can orient yourself to the full map, maybe. So I think I'll be walking it just with those things in mind. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other because I can't remember.
The laminated signs that are out there right now, Matt, are full maps with star or point of reference, kind of you are here.
Mm-hmm.
Are they?
Yep.
Okay.
Full system map, star as to where you are. The only thing I'm going to do differently is when I reproduce them now, I'm going to reproduce them with a bigger star showing you are here because someone said they didn't see that. So I'll make it bigger.
Where roughly are there a couple out there?
There's one at every intersection, I believe.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll look for those when I'm out there out there this weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the trails plan as presented by Doug here.
I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the trails plan as presented. All of those in favor, say aye.
Krista, aye.
Eric, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed, say no. The motion, the ayes have it, the motion passes, and the trails plan is approved.
Okay.
We shall move on to new business. Is that right?
No, we're still on the old
One more
business.
unfinished. One more unfinished. The levy fact sheet.
So on the levy fact sheet, this was included in your board packet. I just wanted you to have the ability to take a look at. The one thing I wanted, Jennifer, Krista, and myself met on this and went through and updated it, added things in. The one thing I wanted to do was I'm going to be doing these online with a couple of commissioners, and we will have these be available as a Zoom meeting rather than doing them in person. I did consult with MRSC, and they basically told me you cannot mandate masks, that you could potentially do an in-person meeting, but you would have to do an online component with it for those people that couldn't. So I was just like, well, if we're going to have to do it online anyways, we might as well just do it online, and then we can push it on our Facebook page that is out there. I had not put together dates. I wanted to talk dates for that and try and get 3 dates in late January, early February, possibly. The levy is on the ballot for February 8th. So my thought was that we do one open house online on February 2nd, about a week ahead. One on January 27th, and then another one on January 18th. That's 3 different days of the week, and do them all in the evening.
Yeah, my only quick comment on that is that since election day is the 8th, people will get their ballots in the mail. The first date that people will get their ballots in the mail is the 21st of January. Mm-hmm. So I would just say we back up from that date and then maybe we have a later supplement, but that we make every effort to inform the voting public prior to the 21st of January.
You want to do it earlier than 21st of January?
Yeah, because again, people will get ballots in the mail that day and could vote on the 21st. So we want them to be informed before their earliest possible voting date.
So the 18th would be before. I was looking at it as a lot of the ballots would get in, and I wanted to be right when the ballots were out, so when people had questions, they could be answered. But
okay, yeah, I mean, but we just need to make sure we've had some of those meetings prior to that 21st date. If we have another one between the 21st and the 8th, that's fantastic.
well, yeah, I said my 3 dates that I put out there were the 18th, the 27th, and the 2nd.
And what time would these be?
Evening. I'm thinking maybe we do, and we denote it as an hour. I think when we did this 4 years ago, we did it as 6 to 8 or something like that, but we never got anybody past that first hour. So I think we can maybe go 6 or go 6 one night and 7 another night, and I don't know, maybe I'm open to suggestion on that, but I think maybe varying I was varying the day of week and varying the time might be a good idea. Maybe a 6, a 7, and an 8. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Or we can do them all at 7.
Okay. There's a very good chance I will not be available on the 27th. But
so again, this would be myself as staff, and then potentially 1 or 2 commissioners. It does not have to be everybody. Okay. So as a matter of fact, we probably don't want it to be everybody, because then it becomes a public meeting. So we want a maximum of 2 commissioners at each one. So if you guys are comfortable with those dates, the 18th, the 27th, and the February 2nd, I can talk to each of the commissioners, and that will be, and Jake, you should be looking at your calendar for this too. I see you looking down there, because that'll be after you're on the board as well. So answering questions, getting that information out there is a good way to look at this. So
yeah, absolutely.
okay. So is everybody comfortable with those 3 dates?
yes.
I think those work.
Okay.
Did you have any thoughts, Matt, now that?
Yeah, I think, having one before the 21st is the absolute minimum. So I think that's fine. I think the only other input I would have would be that maybe add another one before the 21st. But I think having at least one gets us I think the minimum we need.
Well, and it's not the only, once we have these dates set, this document will then be finished up, and I will be immediately, once we're set, this will now go out. So there will be advertising push. I would encourage every one of you that has a Facebook page to share it, to get it out to the community, to see this is information. And once that goes out, I don't want it to be a surprise to people. It shouldn't be. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can and get the information out to the community. Again, these are informational sessions. That's all they are. We can't tell them anything about which way they should vote. We can only tell them this is what this does. This is how much it's going to impact you. Here's what it looks like. And all of this information on this informational sheet here has been vetted by our attorney to make sure that we are not overstepping. So I'm not hearing any objections to those dates. I'll start with Jennifer and Krista, since they were on our levy committee, and have them tell me which dates they can make, and then as I need people to fill in, I will go down and ask other commissioners.
Doug, what time on Friday? What time were you thinking? You said between 6 and 8, or 6, maybe 7.
I was thinking about an hour slot, and my thought was to vary the time, but we could just do it at 7 and just have an hour-long open house at 7 each time, because that's in between. I think people, if you get off work at 4:30 or 5, you're probably getting home around 6. You probably don't want to jump right into an open house. So maybe 7 p.m. and then go for an hour and then shut it down. And my thought was to kind of control it and have only a couple of people in the meeting at a time. That's why I'm thinking a Zoom platform where you can admit people and kind of talk to them and answer questions. And as people line up, we just admit one and send one out and just kind of talk to people about things as they go. It can be too confusing if you have too many people in a Zoom meeting trying to all talk at once. So it's going to be an interesting process. I don't know that we'll get a ton of response to it, but we'll have to deal with it on the fly and figure it out.
That was my other question. That traditionally, like you had Clinton Community Hall.
Mm-hmm.
What has been our turnout when something like this goes out? Really?
Clinton, we had 0. Mark Helpenstell and I sat there for a full hour and nobody showed up. The Freeland Public Library, we had a couple of people coming in and out. And then at our administrative office, I think we might have had 1 or 2 people. There wasn't many. So it really varies. I don't know if we'll get a ton. We'll see what happens. I mean,
and when we were at the Freeland Library, they came right at the beginning, and I don't think they were even there 10 or 15 minutes.
Nope. It's very quick. It's a turnover. It's an open house kind of format. So people come in, they ask your questions, they kind of talk to you a little bit, and then they leave.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I'm envisioning, is just this kind of open door. Hey, let you in. Hi, how you doing? Here's what we're talking about. I'll get the information stuff up and ready to go, and we can talk through it and go from there.
The hard part's going to be not having all of the information laid out on tables that people can actually look at and reference and point and talk. And so that part's be a little more challenging for you to figure out how to present, Doug.
Well, there will be, I'm probably going to convert a lot of this into a lot of what we've written here into individual PowerPoint slides and have them be available to just pull up one at a time. And here's what we offer. Here's our map. Here's what we do. Do you have any questions? And this is what the rate is. This is how much it's going to cost for this home, this home, this home, this home, yada, 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 and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you, Krista and Jennifer and Doug, for pulling this together. I think it looks fantastic.
Okay.
So
perfect.
Great work.
So we will get that done, and I will update that, and we will go from there.
Okay, can I make one more point real quick on this? Mm-hmm. So just that we had 2, as Doug said, we had 2 folks, volunteers from the community, stand up to write the 4 language for the voter guide. And I just want to recognize them, Deborah Drake and Ann Lene, both spent on a tight deadline. By the time we finally asked them to do it, we were within 36 hours of the deadline. So they both stepped up and reorganized their own schedules to do the work to write that language, and then through a power outage and a windstorm, and they actually got it submitted to the county on time, and the county acknowledged it, and it's going to be in the voter guide. So thanks to those 2 folks. If you know them, I thank them on behalf of the board, and as did Doug. But just if you happen to know them or cross paths with them, please pass on your own thanks, because they did great work.
What happens if you don't get the nays to write the statement?
Yeah, the elections board. Well, yeah, the election board for the county just says, tells you should solicit input for both, positions, and as long as you make a good faith effort. Some elections you may get a nay, volunteer and no 4 volunteers. Other ones you may get a 4 volunteer and no nay volunteers. Sometimes you get both. So they may very well have gotten a submission separate from our efforts to recruit somebody. So remains to be seen. But many times, in many cases, you've seen there are no statements on either side. Sometimes. So.
Okay. All right.
Moving on to new business, the administrative building lease.
So as we talked about in our budget process, we did have an increase in the building lease for the next year. The addendum I need to sign, but before I sign it, since it is a long-term, like it is a lease, I wanted the board approval. So this matches the budgetary information we presented in the budget process. We are all good with it. I recommend we approve it and move forward. That's all I need from the board is just a vote and approval on the lease addendum. Or amendment.
And I'll confirm that these amounts are contained in the budget that we approved. So if there's no questions, I'd be glad to make that motion, Jen.
Any questions, anyone? All right, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the lease amendment for the staff building as presented by Doug.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the lease amendment for the building. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes and the lease amendment is approved.
Okay, another thing we need to approve here is our meeting schedule for 2022. So we will have, it is following our regular schedule of the third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. I've gone through and plotted that out. I've checked that with Carrie to make sure there are no holiday dates specifically in November and December that would impact the vouchers being processed with the county. And these dates all seem to work. So wanted to get the board to approve our board meeting calendar for 2022.
I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2022.
Second that motion.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the meeting schedule for 2022. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes and the meeting schedule for 2022 is approved.
Okay.
All right, 2022 annual meeting.
So next month, now that we've approved it, we will have a meeting in January. And at our board meeting in January, we start off the year with our annual meeting. And at our annual meeting, we elect the board officers. Now, normally, if in a regular year, that could mean everybody just stays in the same place and nobody moves. However, this year, Josh is unfortunately is coaching basketball tonight and unable to be here, so it's his last meeting, but his last meeting actually ended up being November. And Jake will be joining us on the board next month in January, so we will be electing a new slate of officers. Now, that is at this point is just an option, like a discussion topic, and kind of going, you know, here's, just keep it on your radar, be thinking about it, be thinking about what you'd want to do. My thought and my recommendation would be bringing, as usual, and anytime we bring a new member on, I generally like to have them in the at-large position, if at all possible. So my recommendation would be to have Jake just take over Josh's position as the at-large member and get his feet wet there. The rest of the positions, I've been comfortable with the way things have been going, but if the board wants to make some switches, that's up to the board, and that's what we do in January. So be thinking about that. Maybe you know, touch base with me if you have questions about one of the other positions or if you're interested in something else. But you know, that's what we're going to do. And then in the regular meeting, since we are losing a board member and Josh will no longer be on certain committees, we'll go through the committee assignments as well and start talking about those. Those might change over the next couple of months as we discuss those again and go through a re-ranking and a re-plotting with Jake in the mix. So that's just a heads up at this point. If you want to discuss it at this point, you can, or we can just take some time to think and come back in January.
Anyone?
I'm good with the current position I have and the people doing what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also fine.
I'm good too.
That makes it easy. One thing I'm going to put out right now, Jake, is I want to touch base with you probably over the next few weeks before we get to January or mid-January, and have a sit down with you to kind of go through kind of an orientation.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, so
I'd love to get together and
go for
talk all this over and let you know what skills I have towards which committee and see how I can be helpful to you guys.
Now, Jake, you want to be on all the committees, all of them.
Don't just look at the holes.
Right. Yeah, sign me up for everything. I don't think I can start that heavy. We'll start with a few and go from there.
All right. Well, we'll talk. We'll go through an orientation and we'll talk about everything and what your duties are and what to do and what not to do. I mean, you've been attending pretty regularly already, so you kind of got a feel for what the board does in the meetings. It's the outside stuff that's going to be a little bit, interesting for you. So, good enough.
Can I ask you an administrative question, Doug?
Sure, go for it.
So Eric and I both received from the county elections office notification of our successful election. Mm-hmm. and an oath attestation. So do we need to go through a January setup to have the oath administered?
You do not need to do that in January. That's what I was going to talk to Jake about as well. He probably got something like that as well. You can bring that into the office whenever Carrie is there, and as the notary, she can go through that with you and swear you back in for January before we even get to the meeting.
Got it. Okay. So Eric, I thought that might be possible.
In person at the office rather than attempting to do something like that online right now.
Yeah, no, in person at the office, definitely, because she needs to sign off.
I actually already took mine to a notary and I sent it back to the auditor's office.
There you're good.
Way to take charge, Jake.
Nice.
Okay, so that's where we are. Yeah, but yes, future reference, Jake, anytime you need notaries for stuff with the Park District, Carrie is our business manager, and she is a notary public. She can do it for you and take care of it.
Fantastic. Good to know.
All right, the final thing I have, and I'm going to kind of turn this over to Jennifer. Jennifer sent me this meeting and asked if we could do a little board item on this on the agenda. These were included in your board packet, and they are guidelines for public comment, what to do, that it is just a comment. It's not a conversation. Very clear about what we're doing. I would encourage all of you to read through these, and make sure you're familiar with all of these. We don't want to engage in debate. We want to listen and hear what the community has to say, but it is not a time for discussion. It is a time for them to comment, and that's what they're doing. So that's something to just kind of read through. Jennifer, did you want to add anything to that?
No, you hit the high points. This is our board meeting. It's certainly open to the public. We want to hear their comments, but it is our board meeting, and we can determine whether or not we want to engage with it. Just as a reminder, if we do want to engage with it, that does require a motion and a second, and it to be passed by the board if we want to extend and engage in public comment. Otherwise, it is a listening opportunity. We can ask questions to seek clarification, but it is not a discussion.
Okay, so please read through those two pieces in your packet. Make sure you're familiar with them. If you don't have them or can't find them in your packet anymore for some reason, let me know. I can email them back out to you. Okay, that's all I have.
All right, does anyone have anything for the good of the order? I'm bummed Josh isn't here to give him a shout out, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I would just say I echo that. I know Josh's term is up, and he has a family that is grown, and he is going to be more actively engaged there. I know he also is coaching basketball significantly, and I just wanted to thank him for his service to the board. And we will have a recognition of that, and I will get that to him, and we'll take care of that after this meeting and get that to him and thank him for his time.
Excellent. All right, if no one has anything else, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:17.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
See you
thank
guys.
you, everyone.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
So, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. We look forward to seeing you.
I look forward to joining the team.
We look forward to
See
having
you guys soon.
Welcome.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Doug.
Good night.
Good night.